Hello buddies, in this video I will show you all you need to do about capped content. Either you are a really experienced player in PvP for capped Node War and capped Siege, or that you are a new player. I hope that there's something that you can learn from it, because there's a lot of things to think about when we do capped content. Often we say, oh, is 750 gear score is really geared, but for capped content it doesn't matter. Someone can be 650, someone can be 750 gear score, and they should have the same strength. But in reality, they don't, because some players know the tricks to maximize their damage, their survivability in capped content compared to other players that have the same capped, but some things that are missing. So in this video, I will show you what I do, what the items I use that are pretty strong for capped content, so you can do the same and hopefully do better, or you can just stay the same, but I hope you can learn some tricks from this. So let's go. The first thing you need to do when you do capped content is to know which capped you are doing. So to know that, you open the world map, and you can see that I already chose the Node War information. To have access to that, probably you have that view. It's like the general view. You just have to press Y, you keep your finger on Y, and you press the D-pad to the left or right. So you change your map settings, and you just go in Node War information. So if you know which territory you are, like if you are in Valencia, it's just the Valencia nodes that you are not worrying on. So you just need to check which one. And for example, that we take Ancado Coast, you see that there is stats restriction. It's a tier 3, and there's multiple stats that are capped. Just for your information, I do only tier 3s and tier 4s that are capped. I do tier 5, but we will not talk about that in the video. For the tier 1s and tier 2, there's some special things, like I think the HP is capped, but I cannot pronounce myself on those because I don't do any of the tier 1s and the tier 2s. But the principle should be the same for those two tiers. So let's see. First off is the AP restriction. It says a certain number. In that case, it's 485, which means if you are above that number, you wasted stats. Like I have 677, which means that I have 200, close to 200 above the cap. So that means I don't need that many AP. And you can see that there is extra damage to human. Before, it was going over capped, so you could just stack a lot of damage against human and do really good and do more damage. Now, it adds to the cap. So even if you have 100 damage to human, and if you go over the cap, it doesn't do anything. So you better to not invest a whole lot in human damage if you do capped content. That's the first stat. The second stat is the evasion restriction. Even if you are a DR class, it's important to max that evasion cap, because you will still be able to evade because the enemy has also accuracy capped. So try to go above the evasion cap everything that you can. That's really important. The third stat is the evasion restriction. As you can see, I only have 5%, and that stat is really hard to get to 20% or to get to the cap. Like the only way you can do it if you are an evasion class and you have passives that gives evasion percentage when you do a skill, when you do or a certain thing. But as a guardian, a pure DR build with no evasion, whatever, I cannot really cap that. I can only cap that with add-ons. That's why add-ons, it's not really intuitive, but it's important to put evasion percentage on your add-ons so you can get closer to that cap, and you will be able to evade even more attacks, which increase your survivability. The fourth stat is the damage reduction. It's like DR builds, it's probably already capped, so you can see how much more overcapped. In that case, it's 365, but it changes via the tier, and I'm way above that. So that means I can lose some DR without any loss of survivability. That's another stat that you can look for. The damage reduction rate limit is 22%, and that means that your sheet DP is like considered in that. As you can see, I have 429, which is like way above the cap, and I think it gives like 30% damage reduction on that cap. So that means if you are below, just be careful and try to get more DR to increase that number, more sheet DR. Now for the accuracy limit, it's 781. If you have a lot of gear, you should already be capped on that, but it's important to have more than 781 accuracy. You can get that from the meals, the elixirs. There's a lot of sources that gives accuracy and to cap that really easily. The next stat is the accuracy rate limit. It's a little bit similar to the evasion percentage. Is that some classes get some accuracy rate in percentage really easily, like Guardian. Guardian, we get a lot via our Black Blood Circle, and there's also like a Foretold Encounter, that's a mobility move that boosts that number. But if you don't have a lot of passives, you can simply use add-ons, which gives 5%, or you can also like debuff the enemy by 5% evasion. That's another thing to consider. I will show you later. But that's important to have that pretty much capped. And there's also a Tebak, the Tebak belt. Not a lot of people have that. I have one. It gives 5% accuracy for like a minute, and it has a 10-minute cooldown. It's not massive, but it buffs the other people around you, so it's kind of fun to use. But that's just another extra layer of accuracy that you can get. Next up are the resistances. Right now it says 50%, so everything above 50% is just pointless. I have 74, 54, 54, 54, which I'm just good with that. So you need to be careful when you put a build together that you don't overcap that above a 50% or above the cap value. The special evasion rate limit is huge. You want that to be capped. Right here it says 20%. So right now I have 10% because I'm not on my PvP loadout, but if I am, I will be able to reach that cap really easily. Now that you know all about the caps, I will show you the gear I use and the ritual I do in buffs just before a siege or a node war that are capped. So let's start with the tier 3 ritual, like what I do if we do a tier 3 node war. The first thing I do is add-ons. You just need an add-on sheet that is capped. I have capped, uncapped, and PvE. So let's pick the cap one, and let's see. I have evasion rate. That's something I said earlier. Even if you are a DR class, it's important to have evasion rate because you need to get to close to 20% so you can survive way more than usual. Movement speed, that's another good one that is not capped. You can have so much movement speed that you want and it will never be capped, so that's important to have that. The second one, evasion rate minus, so I debuff the enemy evasion rate. That's good because if someone uses the evasion up, I can just lower it down and I can kill him easier than normal. Attack casting speed, that's another good thing. You want to reduce their attack speed so they kill you slower or they cannot escape as easily. So that's an important one to get. Critical hit rate. That's something that I don't really need as a Guardian. It's more like when I go into the melee, I don't have any passive stacks, which gives me a critical hit rate. So that's why I use that, because most of the time I start my combo with mutilation. So I get a free 30% right off the bat, and after that I do my combo, I get like 100%. But that's something that you need to know about your class if you need critical hit rate, but most of the time you do. So that's why I have that. The attack casting speed plus 10% is like mandatory. You need that to attack faster, to move faster, and you will be able to kill faster. Black Blood Circle is my big debuff. His spell, it has a huge AoE, so I use the evasion rate minus 5%. It's the same as Mountain Slam because I don't do those two things back to back, so that's why I use both of them with the same evasion rate debuffs, so I can kill the people easier. I also have a bleed because bleed is pretty important on capped content. You don't really use minus DR, minus AP, minus like all the minus that you do for uncapped. So having people to bleed for a couple of seconds can give you some kills pretty often. Like you just don't do anything and you see, oh, I got a kill. That's because of my bleed. So I just have one skill that bleeds, but you can have multiple ones if you really want to apply that bleed on multiple targets most of the time, but personally I just use it for my big AoE that I like. Boulder Crash, reduce movement speed. Another one, since movement speed is not capped, I just try to make people move slower, they escape slower, and we can kill them easier. Down attack damage, all the special attacks are not capped. So you can stack up the most special attack, which are down attack, critical damage, air attack, down attack. All of those attacks you can use add-ons. Personally, I like down attack because if they're on the ground, they take a lot of damage and you want to do more damage with that. And lastly, I use a Black Blood Slaughter because it's part of my combo, and I use the all accuracy rate, which is pretty much part of my combo. I use Mutilation, Black Blood Circle, Mountain Slam. After that I can use Boulder Crush, or if I want to move I use Objugation, and after that I use Black Blood Circle, like after I reposition myself, and I just do that combo once again. And with that I can get more critical hit damage and more accuracy. Accuracy is really important, as I said earlier. Accuracy rate, not the accuracy in number. You probably already have that capped, so that's why I have the accuracy rate on this one. And now you might ask, why not use other stuff, other add-ons? Like for example, the extra damage to humans. As I said earlier, if you are already overcapped in AP, that's pointless. Same thing with DP. If you're overcapped on damage reduction, that's pointless. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Damage against human, debuff the enemy, that's bad because they already have overcapped AP probably, so that's not really good. Same thing with that, they probably are overcapped in DR, so you don't need to debuff their DP. That's pointless, you don't do more damage to them. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that the bleeding is good. You can use the instant recovery, 10 hit points per hit is really good for cap content. Like you want all the HP regen that you want. If you have a big skill that does a lot of AoE, you can use that and you will be really good. That if you have mana problem, that's pretty good too. All the 50% to down smash, you can use that. There's not a cap, so it can be good in some cases. Personally, I don't use them. And all the special attacks, back attack, down attack, air attack, and critical hit damage are all good. You can use any of them. Back attack is a bit more used, down attack too, and critical hit damage. It's rare that people are flying in the air, but you can also use that. So that's all the add-ons that you need for capped content. After choosing my add-on page, the next step I do, which is step number 2, I just update my crystals. So let's see my crystals. I want all, I name my loadout cap HP, which I want all the HP sources that I can, because HP is not capped, or at least not in tier 3 and in tier 4. Maybe it is on tier 1 and tier 2, so you need to be careful what the cap is. Personally, I don't know it, so in the comment section people can write down what's the cap. So let's start. The Rebellious Spirit Crystal gives 175 HP. That's the only thing that you want. It gives AP, but you don't really need that because I'm already overcapped. The Hooms are really good. It gives points, resistance if you don't have that, evasion, because capping evasion rating, it can be quite difficult, so that's a good source of evasion, and also accuracy if you need. I use the Corrupted Magic Crystal for critical hit damage. You can also use the Darkness one for the back attack. Personally, I don't, because critical hit damage is more important for me, so I just use the Corrupteds. Elixirs, accuracy, that's pretty much pointless, I'm already overcapped, but the Ignore All resistance is quite important, because you can CC people more often if they are not in super armor, but normally they can resist. I also use Bone Magic Crystal Cobelinus only for the hit points, not for the weight limit, just for the hit points. 150, that's quite huge. I also use Arfia for the 20 evasion. As I said, evasion is quite hard to cap for a DR character, so you can use 1 or 2 Arfias just to get closer to that cap. Another Cobelinus for the hit points. I use 8 tier for the hit points again, evasion, special attack evasion rate, that's all good. And the Jin Gloris Crystal of Honor special evasion. Be careful, because sometimes the special evasion rating is like capped at 20%, so if you have those two together and the 8 tier, you already are overcapped on special evasion. So, but sometimes, for example in tier 4, the special evasion is not capped, so you can use all of the sources of special evasion that you need. I will come back to it later, but that's pretty much my loadout for capped Node Wars and Siege. The third step that I watch for is the gear, because you don't need that much gear for the cap Node War and Sieges. There's some items that doesn't give more stats, but that they are more powerful. For example, the Chimera Purple Gem. They give 10% down attack extra damage. So as I said, the special attacks are not capped, so you use 2 of them. I just equip those. You can also switch your Resplendent Alchemy Stone, or if you are using the Veil's Heart, you can switch them for the Peira Star. Peira Star has the bonus to give 200 hit points. So you want all the hit points you need. It also recovers 1 hit points per hit, which can be quite good if you are inside of a fort and you attack structures and people. You can get back hit points really easily. And it also gives stamina if you are missing stamina, but that in movement speed, that's pretty much all it does for the cap content. But sometimes you like, I don't like to attack slower, so I will still be using the Resplendent Alchemy Stone of Destruction just to get that extra attack speed, which for me is 6%. Sometimes I switch them if I want to attack faster, and if I want to feel like I do more, I'll just equip that or the Peria Star. It's pretty much a choice. For the Veil's Heart, it's 5% attack speed, and attack speed is not capped, so you can run all the attack speed sources that you want. For the neck, now there's 2 choices. You can use the Kaya necklace, which gives back attack extra damage, but if you do that, you probably will reach a certain problem of capping your AP, because now you have a really low AP. So that's why I use the Seraph necklace. It's not expensive, but it gives like 200 hit points. I think it's like it's 50. The item itself gives 50, and I use a cup on it, so it's another extra 150. So that's just extra hit points. I just trade hit points for back attack damage. It's a personal choices, and you decide what you want. For the belt, I have 2 choices for me. I will recommend you to use the Valtara Eclipse belt. It gives 125 hit points, and as capped, you just want to use that. Personally, I have the Tebek belt, which gives a bonus the Blessing of Tebek, that's 5% extra accuracy for 10 people around me and myself for 1 minute, and it has a 10-minute cooldown. But no one has that probably, so I would just use Valtara for you. So that's pretty much my gear that I use for cap content. Don't look at the artifacts, it will be at the later stage. For the sub-weapon, you can use a Nuver if you are overcapped. If you need AP, like just use a Nuver. But if you are looking for some evasion, the Khatum or the Pen Blackstar are like, it gives a lot, so that's pretty good if you are missing some evasion. But if you are not missing evasion, I would just use a Nuver. It helps you overcap your AP in case that you want to use the Kaya necklace. So that's all the gear that I was using. If I want to do cap content, I just prepare all of that gear, and after that I'm ready. The next step, which is a new step, is the artifacts. You want artifacts that gives hit points. I prepared some presets. I have some uncapped artifact set that I will show later in the later video, but the one you need for cap content is the H hit points. That's pretty much 4 Lightstone of Heart, which cost 16 million, and they are really easy to get. You probably got some. It's like really not rare. Everybody has them. So you need 4 of them, and it gives a set bonus of 250 hit points. And on top of the 50, that's pretty much a 450 hit points. And if you add the artifacts, which are the artifacts of just equip it, just press A, and it's a KL artifact, max hit points. The artifact itself gives 75 hit points each, so 75 each plus 450, it's a free 600 hit points for cap content. You can either use that for tier 3, tier 4, or Calphion Siege, Valenza Siege. That's really good. But if you are doing Siege and only Calphion or Valenza Siege, I will not use that set. Rather, I will use the Tower Tanking set, which gives minus... wait a minute. The Tower Tanking set that gives minus 50 damage reduction, which for cap content you don't really like. It doesn't really matter if you lose that many DR, because you are probably overcapped. But the big thing is the siege weapon damage reduction. And I mean just for sieges, those Watcha hurts a lot. And just to get 30% siege weapon damage reduction, the Watcha and the Flame Tower will do nothing to you. So if you have a problem with the Watchas, and you're like, oh, they just keep one-shotting me all the time, I would use that set. Keep in mind that it's pretty hard to get, because you need a mined Lightstone of Wind that costs 5 billion, or I think ish, or around that. And you also need like Swamp, Roots, Boulder, Lightstones, which are not common. That's like rare-ish. But if you are looking for a set, I would go for that set for sieges only, for the Watchas to counter them. That's really helpful. But for all the rest, I would just go with the hit points set for the 600 set bonus, that 450 set bonus plus the 150 from the artifact themselves. So keep that in mind. That's my artifact setup. Next up on the list, number 6, I just use the pets. So pets are kind of important. Right now, that's my grinding setup. And I have a tier 5 Garmoths pet. That's like quite a lux item. I just unequip it, I appoint it alpha, and I re-equip it. So now, instead of 100 hit points, I get 125. That's really not a lot, but it can make the difference. Sometimes I left the fight with like less than 25 hit points, so those extra hit points kind of help a tiny bit, but that's always something that I do. I just update my pet just to get that alpha tier 5 Garmoths pet for the hit points. Now we enter into the buff section that everybody probably knows, but I will tell you just to be sure, which are the tent buffs. You pop your tent outside of a city, you repair your gear, that's important, and after that you just buy a body enhancement for like 6 hours or the time that you want. It gives AP, DR, but most importantly HP and resistances. Ignore all resist. That's like mandatory. You need that for capped or any kind of PvP, any PvE. You kind of need that buff. That's really important. I can buy it straight away from here because I have a Old Moon scroll, but I will show you how you can access it without having an Old Moon book. Before having a permanent Old Moon book, I had to put an alt to a Karushu Villa, which is my DK, and every time I used to buy a Villa invitation for 7 days. It was the Lohan invitation. It only cost 10 million silver, so you just buy it, you have it for 7 days, and you can use the Maid system or the Magnus storage system to get that for your character. You have it for 7 days, and you can buy church buff all you want for 7 days, and you just have to switch to your alt and buy once more if the 7 days expire. So that's how you can get the Villa buff really easily without like having to travel to the desert into a villa. So that's how. Now that you have your own villa buff, the next step is step number 7, and it's church buff. So in every city there's a church buff NPC that you can talk to and actually buy the attack blessing and the protection blessing. Those two are important if you want to be more tanky, do more damage, and so on, or to reach the caps easier. And if you don't know like where they are in the cities, there's a new function that you can find the NPC if you just go in the world map and you just press the RB or LB to switch the window, and you press right trigger and it goes to the closest NPC that gives a church buff. That's really strong. It gives 8 points. That's the most important, but that's how you get more buffs. Step number 8 is to be sure that you use the right elixirs. Since it's capped PvP, you can use a giant drought and it can be really good. But if you want to step up your level a tiny bit, I would use a full elixir rotation, but you don't need all of the elixirs that you would normally use for uncapped or for PvE because some of them are pointless. For example, the all damage reduction plus 10. You already are overcapped on damage reduction, so you don't need that. You need back attack damage because it's not capped, and it gives 5% more than a giant drought, so that's kind of good. The same thing with the sharp detection, 5% more critical hit damage than a drought. That's more damage, and it's not capped. The extra damage to humans, you don't need that because it's capped, so you are already capped on AP. Same thing with the Endless Fury, you don't need that. The Strong Shock, I use it because I don't have 5 out of 5 critical hit. That's really important because the critical hit rate is not capped, so you need that if you don't have already 5 out of 5 critical hit, and if you want to be sure what I'm talking about. So that's the thing here, the ability. Right now I don't have any because I probably don't have any buffs, but you want the critical hit here at the level 5. It's 18% critical hit rate, and that can mean a lot of damage. So the next step for the elixir, the accuracy, if you need, I don't, so you can use that. Massive damage, it's pointless, it's PvP. Same thing with its frenzy, AP already capped. Now the Grim Soul Reaper Elixir, as I said, 8 points recovery is quite important, so you want that. If you are in the fort, you attack at least 10 barricades. If you are like me and crazy and just like to dive forts to kill structures, you regen a lot of hit points because of that. Hit points, always strong for cap content. The defense nullifying damage plus 10 per critical hit. What does that mean? It's basically a 10 damage, no matter what. So it's a 10 point of damage if you do a critical hit. So that means that if they have a lot of hit points, it will not do a lot, but it's still more damage. So that's why I'm using it. I kill people faster with it. I just do a lot of a critical hit, and having to do 10 damage on everything. It can be like 100 or 150 damage for free, more than the usual, so that can melt people. Damage receiving from monsters, that's pointless. The flame towers and the structures are not monsters, so it's pointless. Evasion, if you need evasion, personally I do, so that's why I use an elixir that gives evasion. Down attack, it's another special attack, 15%, that's really good. Defense nullifying damage per back attack, that's the same thing as the critical hit from earlier here. That just from back attack, so it's another 10 damage on the health, just doing back attacks. So if you are doing those back attacks, you can melt people because of those 2 elixirs. And lastly, strong draining for another 5 hit points. So you can really see your hit points bar go ping pong if you are inside of a fort. You see it go down, you go up, go down, go up. So it can really help your survivability. Stuff that the giant drought doesn't give. It doesn't give 8 points regen, so if people attack you, your hit points just go boom. But with those elixirs, it can actually see the difference. And lastly, for the perfume, it depends. Normally, if you see the caps and the special attack evasion is capped at like 20 or 30%, I would not use a perfume of charm, but I would use it for T4s. Tier 4s in Blood War don't have a cap on special attack evasion, so it can actually go above that 30%. So you really need all of those special attack evasion, which are huge for survivability. For T4s, if you see that it doesn't say a cap for the special evasion on the Node War description, I would use the Perfume of Charm. But for all of the other Node Wars, if the special evasion is capped, I would only use the Deep Sea. It gives special attack, which are really good. It gives hit points and stamina, which can be really good depending on the class. All the rest I don't really use. Like, you can use Perfume of Courage if you want more hit points, but overall having those special attack to kill people faster is more important. And lastly, for the meal, the Exquisite Crown Meal is like a go-to choice. It gives a bunch of evasion, hit points. It's like the best for PvP Exquisite Crown Meal, so I will only use that. Now, you probably are done with all of your buffs, but there's one more that you need, which is the crit buff. So in Idle, it's something that we call the crit buff. It's close to in this house. You go up, and like 2 or 3 minutes before the Node War or the siege, you just go near Caroline, that's why you see a lot of people chilling there, because you talk to her, and you just get the Caroline kindness. That's a buff that gives, let's see, in the character active effects, that gives 10% critical hit damage. That's another special attack that's quite huge. For the first 30 minutes of the Node War or the siege, you will be doing 10% more critical hit damage. But if you want more survivability, you can also go to Velia, Alliston, which is like an NPC that is chilling like over here, I believe, in like a little house over here. He actually gives 100 hit points. And maybe you don't have access to that text, just be sure that you have enough amity. Like you can see in the top left, it says 93 amity, so you need 50. to be able to get that buff. That's another buff that the pro player are using that I'm pretty sure most of the normal people are not using. And lastly, the last buff that you need is a house buff. So you just need to buy a house. It can be in any city that you can access. Personally, that's my little house that I do like a lot of alchemy and such. So I have little stuffed animals on the wall, stuffed head animals that I can use if I'm able to close the door, but it doesn't matter. So if it's capped, I want to use the Master Special Stuff Shadow Wolf Head. It gives another 108 hit points. That's quite good. That's like the best thing that you can get for capped content. But like there's other stuff that here that gives like 20 accuracy for like uncapped. But for capped, it's pretty much the only one that is useful, 108 points. And to get those, I would suggest you to just buy them on the market. You just type Wolf Head and you put some pre-orders on them. That's those ones, I believe. There's ones for 1 hour and like for 3 hours. So there's actually 18 of them on sale. It's quite expensive, but think about your performance in the Siege or the Node War. The more hit points you have, the better you will do, the more survivability you will have, and the more fun you will get. So those are little gains that you can get that are just cost a little bit more than usual, but overall, if you compare it to the cost of a pen accessory, for the little gain those accessory gives and all the buffs you can get from those little things like add-ons, crystal, gear, artifact, Garmoths, pet, church buff, elixir, crit buff, house buff, that's the difference it makes between, let's say, a sacred ball that has all of those things and another guild that is less experienced, as less experienced player that doesn't really have a lot of those buffs. Even for capped content, those two differences can make the big difference. So that's all the buffs you need. But if you want to put it to the next level, be sure to have Sturdy Whale Tendon Potion. It's like the big version of the Whale Tendon Potion, and it gives 1,250 hit points every 30 seconds. So that's a potion that you need to pop yourself. For example, if you are in a fort, you are 50% health, and you have trouble surviving, I just use it on my wheel, and I just use the up D-pad, and I use that, and I gain like a lot of hit points. And I get even more if I'm not moving. So sometimes I'm not moving just to be sure to get that 45% extra effective more recovery from the hit points from the potion. Because if I'm not moving, if I'm on the ground, if I'm CC'd, I get like 45% more, which you see in the health bar. It goes like poof. So it can really help your survivability. It can give you the extra second to be able to escape a situation with the E buff, with the V, with the super armors or the immunity frames. There's a lot of things that you can do with the sturdy, and it will greatly increase your survivability. For uncapped, there's other things that are called the Whale Tendon Elixir that gives 175 DR, but for capped content, that's not really useful. And lastly, it's to get flame traps and stun traps. Like right now, I don't have a lot of them, but be sure to always have them in your inventory just to be able to put them on the ground, and also have repair materials like the iron ingot, the melted copper shard, or I think the black sun powder, just to be able to repair the fort if needed, or to upgrade barricades and structures. So don't forget those melted copper shard, or iron ingot, and black sun powder. Now let's see the result. So I equipped all the things I showed in this video just to be sure that I have all the caps needed. So for tier 3 for Valencia, that's a tier 3 node war. It's pretty much all of the node wars you will do in tier 3. It's all the same caps. I have AP cap, evasion cap a lot, so I can lose some. Damage reduction cap, all of the caps except for evasion restriction and accuracy rate limit. Those two you will probably never be able to have them capped on that window, but you can use add-ons and skill stuff to be able to cap those. That's a tier 3. Now let's see the other tiers. For a T4, you can see that I have all the caps. The evasion restriction, there's none, so people can have a lot of evasion. Accuracy the same. Resistances I can have even more, but I just want to hide the little camera for now. The special evasion rate, there is no limit, so you want that 42%. It's pretty much the max that you can get. I think some artifacts are giving a little bit more, but 42% is like a sweet spot to be able to be really tanky on that T4 capped content. AP is overcapped, but not by a lot. Evasion the same, it's overcapped, but not by a lot. And all of the rest is just overcapped. So I'm pretty much good for T4 also. If we check Valencia Castle Siege, I'm overcapped on all of the stats. For the special evasion, I will switch to the other elixir, another perfume, like the deep sea, if I want to remove some special attack evasion. But for now, I'm using the perfume that gives 10% special attack evasion. But I have all the cap for the Valencia Castle. And the last one is the Calphion Siege Castle. I have all the caps too, so I'm pretty much good. That build covers all of the stats, and that's how you can be really tanky, do a lot of damage to a lot of people, and have more fun during node wars and capped siege. I hope you liked that video to cover all of the things about PvP, about capped PvP. I didn't cover anything about uncapped, what you need to build for uncapped. That's all about capped content. So I hope you learned at least 1 or 2 things, if not more. If you are an experienced player or an inexperienced player, if it helped you to know what to do to buff before a node war, a capped node war or a capped siege. So that's all I do for the ritual. There's like 12 steps, 12 things to check, to have a checklist, to not lose some offensive capacity or defensive survivability. That can greatly help the ball that you are in, and so you can get more fun. So let me know if you learned something in the comment section, if it helped, and I will see you another day, buddy, for another video, maybe about uncapped PvP. We will see, so stay tuned to my content and see you another day. Bye bye.